Hey, folks, it is Go-To Guy Timberlake here, and welcome to another edition of Getting Fed with Go-To Guy. This is where we serve up some nourishing information to help inform how you go about thriving in federal contracting. And today we have got a phenomenal, outstanding special treat for you because as you see on my Brady Bunch-like screen right now, this is the most people I've ever had on one of the podcasts at one time. And I want to introduce you to my friends from a company called ORI. And what we're going to be talking about today is an event system that they have put together that is helping them transition from, we'll call it, arbitrary event attendance into some really informed strategic business development. And with that, I want to first introduce Kathy, who is the CEO and co-founder of the program. So Kathy Benson is someone I have known now for, oh, geez, Kathy, do I have to do it?
No.
How many years? It's double digits. I know that. And Kathy, I'm going to let you start it off. Please tell us a little bit about ORI and who you are and what do you guys do?
Great. Thanks, Guy. I appreciate the invitation and the introduction. We're all very happy to be here. And like I said, I've known Guy for so many years that has been a great guiding force for ORI with our growth and development here. So just to kick it off, ORI, we've been in business, co-founded in 1988. So we've been in business coming up on, I think, like 38 years. But we've really evolved and pivoted along the way over all these years. We started off as a data entry company out of the basement of my home, and we had a cottage industry of people doing data entry from their kitchen table. And we continued to grow over the years. We then moved into doing surveys, research, analytics, and then we added a lot of reporting and technology to the process that we use to deliver our projects and our contracts to our customers. So our last pivot was 5 years ago, really at the beginning of COVID, and we embarked on a journey to become a reseller of to the federal government. We resell emerging and cutting edge technologies to our customers, and we work with a variety of partners to support them and their implementation and sales efforts.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. And so before we get into the discussion, we got to make sure we meet the rest of the gang here. So I'm going to start going in order of what I see on my screen. Melinda, welcome to Getting Fed. And tell us a little bit about you. What do you do for ORI?
Yeah, so I am the marketing manager. I have really taken on any roles that come across that feed into marketing and then in supporting sales. And I've been with the company now for, I think it's 8.5 years, which is unbelievable because it has been, it seems like a much shorter time. It's been just a fun ride and a lot of change over the years. But so really just coming in where needed. I handle all of our social media. As it comes to the event discussions that we'll be having today, it's really about supporting the sales team, supporting everybody. And, as Kathy spoke about the business, we are a small business. So a lot of the efforts, I'd say, come down to, it is very much an all hands on deck. Everybody's pulling their weight. So it's a great opportunity as a marketer to be in that environment because I'm providing all of the support that I can to the team, and then they're really feeding back any information that I can use and be able to share. So it definitely comes across as a much more personalized approach, I think, just because everybody is really invested and, you're not jumping through hoops with multiple people reviewing things and changing things and not communicating. So it's just been a really fun ride these past few years.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. Jay, I am pushing you outside of the comfort zone, I know, but I am grateful to have you here and being able to participate in this. We just had a chance we met over a year ago during one of our fiscal New Year's bashes, but we really got a chance to kind of talk and hang out recently when you and Kathy and Brenna all attended boot camp. But so you've got a very sophisticated role within the organization. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I'm the AVP of our corporate strategy, and that's obviously evolved as the company has evolved. And I've been with ORI for 7 years now. So, like Melinda, have kind of seen us through, this transition into the reseller model, which has been really exciting, and also gave us the opportunity, I think, to refocus and rethink some of the ways that we were doing different business operations or business practices. And one of those was events. And so in my role now, so corporate strategy in general, I would say overarching, but then also that also encompasses things like managing our partner relationships, where are we going, wherefore, how, why, when, what kind of money do we need to do it, all that kind of stuff. But then also on the process side, so making sure our business, we're running a streamlined and impactful business. So process for the sake of impact, but not process for the sake of process, right? So, and I think that's one of the things that will come up as we're discussing events as well. The process evolves out of the need and the impact, and is really driven by the strategy that we have for the company and the sales. And so, so we like process where it's supportive, and I think that'll come through in the way that our event planning processes sort of evolved over time, and taken shape. So, yeah, so that's, I mean, what I do, and then in particular focused on how it ties into this event planning
Awesome.
process.
So I want to just mention something that came up, when we were talking previously. I believe you're a student of EOS, but is
Mhm.
that something that the company has adopted also?
Not formally.
Okay,
I think naturally, to Melinda's point, we're a small business. And so the type of culture we have, I think, falls very closely in line with kind of EOS, but we haven't formally implemented it within the company.
perfect. I bring that up only because we work with a number of companies who have gone the route of EOS. So every time I hear it, I'm always kind of taking a microscope to the
Mhm.
company so I can see the little pieces that I can recognize,
Mhm.
like the rocks and the level 10 meetings and things like that, or the things that kind of mimic those activities too.
Mhm.
Everyone
Mhm.
I know that's gone EOS has had phenomenal results. And so I just remember that coming up in a previous conversation.
Yeah.
Out,
Yeah.
excellent. And last but by no means least,
Mhm.
my buddy, my friend, Brenna. We got to hang out at the Bash last year, have a little bit of fun, meet some cool people, and then boot camp. And I'm going to ask you guys later about boot camp. We'll talk about that on another program. But Brenna, I know what you do, but tell everybody else, who are you and what do you do for ORI?
Thanks, Guy. Yeah, I'm jazzed to be here. I am a federal account manager for ORI. So, like Melinda said, we're a small team. So, at ORI, really managing end-to-end sales process for our federal accounts across civilian, defense, and some intelligence as well. Everything from business development, helping with marketing efforts, event planning, through the entire sales process. So contracting, closing the deal, supporting post sales, renewals as well. So really the joy of working at ORI is being able to touch so many different parts of the business. And excited today to really talk about, like you had mentioned, the kind of reactive attendance that at least I know I had first had when joining ORI, to the more strategic attendance that I now have at events, coming from the vendor side of the house, and this being my first role in a reseller kind of channel partner. It did involve different strategy when attending these events. And so I'm really excited to talk about how we get the most out of events, how I get the most out of events from a sales perspective, especially while supporting multiple partners, and then now presenting myself as part of a strategic reseller, opposed to, when I was on the vendor side supporting just that one technology partner.
Yeah. So look, Brent, you kind of opened the door for this next one, and let's kind of dive into it. So for the group, let's talk about it. What was event planning like prior to you rolling out this strategy?
Yeah, I can go ahead and talk a little bit about that, Guy, because we've been going to events for over 30 years, right? And historically, we've served many different verticals, right? So we were selling to commercial agents, so commercial firms, government agencies, and associations. But no matter where we were in the life cycle of our business and attending these events, we were just almost like, well, I think we should go to this one. We should go to that one. There was no real decision process that we followed, but we had to decide, do we go to the event? And then, oh no, do we want to exhibit? And obviously there's expense involved with either one, and the dollars just really rack up. And then we had to decide, well, how many people go? There's all the expense of that. So, looking back, we made a lot of missteps. We didn't always choose the right ones to go to. And we had some success with many of them, but we did, we fell short on many of them. And I think the way we made our decisions, unfortunately, was our gut feeling, right? Like, oh, this is a great event. We were there 2 years ago. Well, that was pretty good. We should probably go back again. And we really didn't have, anything to base that on. There was no strategy. There was no process that we followed. And yeah, we did have some opportunities. We filled our pipeline. We had a couple wins along the way, but the ROI just wasn't there, right? So, we really now have to look at events. They can be a game changer, right? Because they can fill the pipeline. We can win a lot of business. But on the flip side, it can be a very expensive misstep, right? It strains the budget and it takes its toll on our employees, right? Because we're asking our employees to leave their families, leave their home, go travel, and that's disruptive, right? So we want to make sure that it's a win for everybody, the business, but also our employees as well.
So, I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys being kind of vulnerable here and talking about, where things were and how it looked then. I got to believe a lot of folks that are going to see this are going to resonate because I know I did 100%. I mean, I've been doing this as long as Kathy has, in small business for a number of years. And I will tell you, my style in the 90s for picking events was not the way it looked in the early 2000s. I will say that. And it was just, you kind of went with the crowd, went with the flow. So what was the thing? Was it one thing? Was it a series of things? Were they dramatic or the more subtle? But what caused the change? When did you realize you needed to do something different?
Yeah, so I can jump in on this one. I think I kind of mentioned this earlier, but there was a couple of things. So one of them was the change in the business model, which naturally kind of leads you to think about, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? How does that tie into your purpose? What's the point? What are you hoping to get out of it, right? And so I think that was sort of a natural time that we were sort of thinking through just kind of generally, what are we doing? And going from a services-based organization and then to a small, there's a lot of questions surrounding that, right? Of like, what do we need? What don't we need? What matters? But I think also the other couple of things that tied into that is we're, and Kathy alluded to this as well, we're a small team and we've got, X number of people, certain amount of time, certain amount of budget, right? And so, and I don't know if anybody's been keeping track, but there's like 5 events every day in GovCon, right? And so having such a wide variety of events, a buffet of events to choose from, it was really thinking through, okay, well, awesome that we've got so many opportunities, but also we can't go to everything. And so if we're not going to everything, then which ones are we going to? And I think the other tie-in too is a little bit of a shift in the marketplace, I guess, or the kind of business development in general within GovCon. Previously, like years ago, you could walk the halls of XYZ agency and go run into people and meet people, and then and even before COVID, you could do workshops and different things a little bit more easily. And then COVID, even though people are back in office now, COVID was really this time where it became very difficult to try to make contact with prospective buyers and customers, which has kind of trickled over post COVID, and I think will continue to evolve. But I think the value that caused the value of events to increase, because that is one of the few opportunities that you had to actually meet face to face with your customers, especially if your customers are, all over the US. So I think there was a few different things that kind of led us to prioritize events in the way that we were rethinking what's important and what matters as being one of the key pieces. Again, tying back to strategy, where are we going and why are we going there and how are we going to do it? Events was one of the key pieces of the how, right? And we needed to figure that out.
Awesome. So, Melinda, I'm gonna ask you this question because Jay kind of teased it just a bit there. So, what has been the most significant change you've seen in how ORI is communicating related to events before, during, and after events, kind of high level?
Yeah, I think, as you alluded to, Guy, everybody would probably have to admit that they've fallen into that trap of the last minute plans. Sometimes that might still happen. Things come up, opportunities you want to attend. So being able to, have that thoughtful planning time up front makes just such a big difference. And it just gives us the opportunity to actually promote things ahead of time. I think, in the past, we might have times where something comes up so quickly, or maybe one team member is preparing for something but hasn't looped in everyone else because they're just moving quickly and only have so many resources. It just gives us more opportunity to promote via social media, being able to do that early and often, prepare materials ahead of time. Even some of the events that we've hosted ourselves, maybe we're still figuring out logistics and we don't have everything tied down yet. But from the marketing side, I can begin to create the images and the copy, and we can kind of work on things at the same time so that I'm taking anything that I'm provided that I'm able to turn into content. And then, Jay, Brenna, Kathy, anyone else on the team can run with that and also promote. So I think the big things would be social media. And then really for us too, we'll probably talk about this a bit more later, but we have a LinkedIn newsletter that we launched just back in May. So still fairly new for us, but we have a good cadence down, something we're sending out monthly. And just having the ability to ahead of time promote the events that we will be going to get that visibility. And then also using it as an opportunity after the events to follow up, to provide, Brenna's been wonderful with sharing information coming out of events, some of those takeaways, or other team members. We have a few others who, as they come back, part of the process we'll talk through is they're reporting back on not just who they met, but what they learned, what the themes were. And I think that gets to the bigger marketing piece for us of just being more thoughtful in our planning. Is those newsletters can then have themes that tie into what we're hearing. And we are really, we have our finger on the pulse, and we are more aware of what others are saying, what challenges they're running into, what solutions are coming up. And I think just being more authentic in that way versus just promoting and saying, hey, we hope we see you here, or trying to get people to show up for something, being able to share that ahead of time. And then I think too, for my role, it's very much more a behind the scenes role. If I'm doing my job right, I'm giving everybody exactly what they need to go out and do their jobs and be successful. So if I have that information ahead of time and I can plan, I can create materials they might need, whether it's things that they're sharing ahead of time for conversations, or if it's, they're out on that showroom floor, they're at a booth, they're presenting, they're able to focus on what they need to be doing versus scrambling to have the right content to hand to somebody or be able to promote something. So I think it really has just worked well for everybody because, hopefully I think the team on the sales side is doing so much ahead of time, during, after, and anywhere that I can help contribute to make that easier for them just works for everybody.
Excellent. So let's talk to part of the team on the sales side. So Brenna, so how's this working for you? Have you seen a difference from what you would have known before, in other organizations compared to what you see now? And how has it made your job easier or better?
Yeah, sure. So like Melinda said, ORI, Melinda specifically, has spearheaded a lot of these marketing efforts, inclusive of the LinkedIn newsletter, different email campaigns, and then something that's been really helpful for me in attending events is different white papers that we might put together before an event. And so ORI, we're super small, but Kathy always says we're small but mighty. So not only do we have 4 to 5 tech partners, in our portfolio at all times. There's just a couple of us. So we can't boil the ocean. And then I think when we're attending these events, if we have this strategic objective in mind, whether we're announcing that on LinkedIn, putting it into an email campaign, or even better, when we actually have this like tangible asset, this white paper that ties our objective of actually attending the event to our customer or to our prospect's mission. I know we're going to get into ethical stalking a little bit later, but I really do think it is in line with ethical stalking, guys. So you always make a great point. We are supporting, at least myself and the team here, we're supporting the public sector. So there's a slew of publicly available resources that can really help us tie our services, our value to our prospect or to our customer's mission. And I think the more that we're able to do that, especially on the back end, but of course, sometimes, when you're attending events, there's things that you can't plan for, conversations that are going to come up, but just actually having that knowledge of our customers' landscape and of their mission and of their goals and how they're metriced, it really makes us be able to fit that role, and at least me at the event, fitting the role of truly a trusted advisor for our customer. And a lot of why I feel at ease now attending these events and comfortable and prepared is because of all the work on the back end that Melinda and our team do.
That's awesome. That is awesome. All right. So we've got a couple minutes left before we start jumping into the next parts of this. And so, folks, for all you listening, here's the deal. We have 6 segments we're doing, and we're going to dive into different parts of the process that ORI uses to establish why they're going to go to an event and what they're going to do at that event. Who are they targeting? What are their goals for the event? All the above. And so I invite you to stick around. If you're going to get a chance to see this in its entirety or in bits and pieces, I want you to do it. But with the time we have left, I'm going to look for a 1 to 2 word answer from each of you that correlates to what you've seen as the most dramatic business outcome since you've implemented this. Kathy, I'll start with you.
Gosh, I have so many, but I'm going to have to pick one, right? I would have to say, I'm going to do it in a non-monetary way, right? It is showing our partners in the community that we support, the public sector, the opportunities that we, well, I guess what we can deliver to them. Like, how can we strengthen our partnership with our partners? How can we strengthen our partnership with the end users and our customers? So it's really about the intelligence and the information sharing that we do at those conferences that helps everybody move forward.
Okay. All right. Melinda, what about you?
I'm going to cheat and say 3 words, I think. To me, it boils down to quality over quantity. And I think that more so coming from our sales folks, they can probably back this up with the data around how many leads they're coming back with, but making sure that they are meaningful leads and that there's something to come out of that. It's not just somebody handing you business cards and there are these conversations occurring, they're following up, they're making that personal connection. So I think, kind of looking at it from the outside in a way, it just seems like this whole process has put more quality into that. And I think that's always been our goal, but it solidifies that really you are going in with the right attitude. You're coming out with something that matches that goal. So you're not just going to events for the sake of attending, but you're coming back with something that's usable and you're able to continue those conversations and really deliver something back to those contacts that fulfills the promise.
All right. Brenna, 1 or 2 words, or you can go 3.
No, I think echoing everything Kathy and Melinda said, I think I have two words, and it would be valuable connections. So with all of this effort that ORI is doing on the back end, it's allowing for more valuable connections to be made at these events.
Awesome. All right. Excellent. Jay, you get to finish it up. A little batting cleanup here. What do you think?
My two words are clarity and value. I think having the clarity of where we're going and why makes it easier to attend with a purpose for a particular outcome, right? So, and we're clear about what the value is before we even start, getting our things together, right? And then value, again, and having, it ties into what Melinda was saying, is quality over quantity, right? Like, why are we going? What's the value we're going to get out of this? How does this actually tie into our bigger business picture, whether that's, sales and leads, or if that's advancing a particular opportunity, or it's our brand, or it's, whatever it is, information about the market. Having a clear eye of sight to the value that we're expecting and therefore able to measure as a result.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, folks, you've heard it. This is part one of a 6-part series that we're doing with the team from ORI, talking about their strategic approach to selecting and also working events and ensuring ROI. And so when we come back in episode 2, we're going to be talking about their strategic event selection framework. You don't want to miss that. Ladies, thank you very much. That's a wrap on episode 1, and we'll be back with episode 2.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guy.